I was heading out to get off my face and pick up a stray fuck, but I had to record a podcast. Next on the Popcorn for Dinner podcast, it's Slow Horses. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're talking about one of the best shows just around, kind of like catnip to me because, it's dark humor plus the spy genre. And we're talking about Slow Horses, which is on Apple TV. And today we are joined by my esteemed guest, Chris Connor. How's it going, Chris?
Yeah, good man. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Kind of always try to like kind of nail the intro, but I always end up watching it and it's just like, yeah, too much pressure and everything. But yeah, Chris is an actual journalist, I mean, normally on here we just kind of have people, giving our opinions. I mean, sometimes we do have um actual people in the industry who actually work on shows, but you're an actual journalist who works and writes and reviews things. So it's good to have an expert, once in a while to actually who actually knows what they're talking about, rather than people like me, blabbing along. So yeah, happy to have you, Chris. Happy to have you here to talk about Slow Horses.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's such a good show, so I'm glad to be able to dive into it.
And yeah, I guess you can find Chris on everything because he kind of reviews all the writes for all the publications and reads and watches everything. And also you can find him on, is it
Yeah,
flickeringmyth.com?
Flickering Myth is my main outlet, especially for Slow Horses. So I'll be covering the whole of the new season for them.
Absolutely. And I think the plan for Slow Horses for us would be we're going to be covering the entire season 3, which should be about 6 episodes. And the plan is to do about 2 episodes or 2 Slow Horses episode in a podcast episode. So, for example, in this episode, we'll be covering the first 2 episodes of the season. And yeah, that's should be fun. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking through the show. And yeah, also, I mean, kind of before we get into the actual um, nits and grits on the episode, just kind of wanted to do some house cleaning and tell you guys to please subscribe, rate, review, do all the good stuff. We've had quite exciting episodes in the last couple of weeks. We did talk about The Killer, sort of talking about that pre record, and kind of like our favorite David Fincher films. We do have episodes on Loki, Invincible, which is back season 2, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which is something that I probably need to get around watching because I did enjoy the movie.
Yeah, I've
And
not seen that
also,
yet.
yeah, I don't know, I don't know when that's has that even come out yet? I'm not sure.
I think it came out last Friday,
When
maybe.
did it come out last Friday? Gosh, you're kind of plugged in way more than me. And also, yeah, we also have Gen V, which has come out as well. And yeah, just anything that you guys are watching, we've probably covered it. So yeah, just give us a lovely review, kind of what we're doing well, what we're doing great, who you like, who you hate, who you want to hear more of, less of, whose voice annoys you. And it better not be me because you have none of that. But yeah, just anything you guys can do to help. We're also on YouTube as well, so you can see our lovely faces. And yeah, I guess let's get into the episode. So, Slow Horses. I'll read the IMDb description. So, Slow Horses follows a team of British intelligence agents who serve as a dumping ground department of MI5 due to the Korean mistakes. And yeah, that's just, once I read that, I'm kind of like, because in another life, I'd have been a spy. That's kind of like some personal kind of opening up to you now. So anything spy is basically catnip for me. I'm sort of, you don't even have to sell it for me. I'm just there already. No, watch any trailers, I'm there already. And yeah, there was kind of like one of those TV shows that just kind of brought me in. So let's kind of start from the beginning on why exactly you like this TV show so much.
It's very different to your typical spy stuff, isn't it? So like your I don't know Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy type
Mm,
stuff, or where it's all quite slow. There's a lot of meetings, not much
hmm
action, maybe. And like, you've got your James Bonds and stuff, but that's slightly different.
hmm
So this is kind of halfway between the two, really,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like the kind of world that George Finale and stuff are in,
hmm
but there's action,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like old school spies in the 21st century. But
yeah.
also Gary Oldman or Jackson Lamb, such a sleaze, isn't it? He walks around with holes in his socks. He farts a lot, makes racist jokes.
Makes all
You
the
know,
jokes, yeah.
you don't get that in James Bond. You know, it's yeah, and it's just so creative. And I've read all the books, and you kind of think they're running out of ideas, and then they just keep one upping them, and they get like
Yeah,
more not stupid, they get more absurd later on, but they make it work.
yeah, yeah,
Like, you know, and it keeps the humor. I think that's important for it as well,
yeah.
because it could be like with the subject matter they're going for quite bleak, because you know there are like terror attacks and things,
Mhm.
but keeping it kind of upbeat and positive is kind of what makes it work, I think.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what makes it a bit rewatchable because I think I've rewatched, especially season one and season two, I've watched it like three times, and it's like, why do I keep on rewatching this? And I think, I mean, we did talk about the spy genre as well, but I feel like there's an element of like dark humor as well,
Hmm.
which is, I mean, one of my favorite films ever is In Bruges, which has, you know, uh, two Irish, I think Brendan Gleeson and what's the other guy? I've forgotten his name, but kind of
Colin
Martin
Farrell.
McDonagh. Yeah, Colin Farrell. There we go, Martin McDonagh, and it's just like dark humor is sort of like my kind of humor that I'd make
Hmm.
in person. So that just sort of kind of feeds to kind of what the sort of things I'd like. And I mean, you did bring up you know, Tinker Tailor, and obviously you've mentioned that it's based on the books by McCarran,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like a midway point, isn't it? Because I am anything. So Tinker Tailor's Soldier Spy is one of the books, as one of like the Smiley collection written by this author called Jean Le Carré, who was an ex MI5 and ex MI6 agent who had to use a pseudonym to write all these spy books, and all his movies I've kind of watched. He's sort of like my favorite. I've ever read. I think I've only read like one of his books, but I've watched all the adaptations so far. So I think that's another reason why I do like the spy genre is because, I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of what kind of spy movie are you looking for? Is it you know, there's obviously an element of betrayal, there's mystery, there's secrets, all these sort of intelligence kind of things that you're watching and you're experiencing on TV. And it's one of those things where I think it makes what Slow Horses is so good. But at the same time, it does mix it up with, there's kind of that, not jokey, but a bit more upbeat in that sense because Gary Oldman is just, you know, a complete firecracker in this TV show, isn't it? And it's quite funny because when you watch Tinker Tailor, the Soldier Spy, the movie, he's like extremely stoic and
Yeah.
reserved and doesn't really say much unless he has to. And on here, he's, I mean, completely off the rails, and it's just it's like once he comes on your screen, you just have to watch. You just have to. This
He's one
guy's
of
here.
the
I have to
best
watch this.
TV characters. Well, obviously he's not like originally a TV character, but like as a TV character, he's one of the best in years because
Yeah,
he's just like you don't know what the hell he's gonna do next. If he's gonna
absolutely.
if he's gonna fart on you, he's gonna throw a bottle at you, or he could be serious. You know, because he doesn't always just do euphemisms. He has moments in the show and the books where he's just straight to the point and knows what he's doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's I mean it's a really, really good performance by him. I'll probably say it's I think it's the best TV show on Apple. Either that
Mm,
or I mean Severance is pretty good as well, to be fair. That's a really interesting concept. So
I
I think it's
haven't
one of those
seen
two.
Silo yet. It's meant to be very good as well.
Silos, yeah, I
But yeah, I
feel
think this is definitely up in my
it's
top three,
definitely up
two or three
there.
of them. Yeah.
Definitely not the morning show because it's,
I've not watched that yet,
I
but
mean
that was like
that's
their big first one, wasn't it? Like the first one out of the gate.
wasn't Ted Lasso before that?
Ooh, well, Ted Lasso would be up there for me as well. Although
Yeah,
I didn't like the third season quite as
yeah,
much,
I
but
think that sort of like kind of nosedived eventually. But
first two were very good.
whenever I mention the morning show pod, Bankole just rolls his eyes
Oh
and
no,
hangs up straight away. So that show is not very good.
oh
But
dear.
yeah, that's the morning show, and this is Slow Horses. I mean, kind of like before we kind of get to the nitty gritty of the episode, just like the spy genre in media, it's a bit interesting this because it's not really because normally it sort of follows the political climate spy movies. So initially we had World War Two, of course. So we had
Mhm.
movies on World War Two and Hitler and the Nazis in that sense. Then I think Valkyrie was one of those movies, but you sort of move along to the Cold War, which I think has the best um,
Yep.
kind of spy. This is kind of why spies were literally multiplied tenfold, where you had like John le Carré and all this sort of other um, forms of media. Tinker Tailor, Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and other TV shows and movies along that line. Then I think after that, you did have, I think it was 9/11 was kind of like the next major
Yep.
flex points in terms of, you had, I'm not, I don't think there was one, I think it was more like big conspiracy sort of storylines in the sense that you got the NSA, national security, there was big terrorism kind of storyline arcs that you'd see from different forms of the media. And obviously, there've been like other international films like The Lives of Others, which is like the German
Hmm.
one, which I guess is the Cold War as well. You have Lost in Caution, which is I think it's from this Far East. I think it's either China, the
Yep.
Chinese spy film.
Not
And
seen
you
that one,
have,
but yeah.
pardon me,
I've not seen that.
that's
Sounds good
really
though.
that literally had me on the edge of my seat. But and you have like the others, like the Little Drummer Girl, which is about the IDF and
Argo,
stuff.
maybe as well. If that's a spy, I
Which
guess,
one?
isn't it?
Sorry.
Argo, the Ben Affleck one.
Yeah. That's I
Yeah,
think that's like
yeah.
the Iran crisis,
That's
and
still the Cold War, isn't it?
yeah. Then you had like A Most Wanted Man again, which is I think there's like post 9/11, and just other things. I think there was one that came out recently. I think it's called A Spy Among Friends on ITV,
Yes, that's
which
really good as well.
that's really good. But that's
Um,
more of like the on the Tinker Tailor side where it's just a lot of people talking in rooms,
yeah,
which
and it was
is
the real life scandal was a big influence on Tinker Tailor as well.
yeah. So I literally went down the rabbit hole about like these like I think it's like they were called the Cambridge Five.
Mhm.
So about like these five people from Cambridge who, you know, became double agents for the KGB. So that's kind of the history lesson for today. But yeah, I think it's sort of interesting because there isn't any big, at least in the West, big sort of international. I guess they're like conflicts, but in terms of like direct conflicts, where, or I don't think Hollywood has, or whoever would is in the UK has really kind of adapted whatever is the zeitgeist to any spy films right now. I feel it's just a bit more of, like for example, how we have here in terms of bit of conspiracy or just people doing their jobs in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, what would it be? Brexit, I guess, would be the climate.
Yeah.
I mean, the books touch on Brexit a little
Mm,
bit, but the show hasn't mentioned it too much. The other recent spy thing I can think of is The Americans,
yeah, that's really
but
good.
that's Cold War as
That's
well. And
Cold
then you
War,
had
yeah.
Spooks back in the BBC, whatever that was, 10, 15 years ago.
I need to watch that
Um,
actually.
Spooks is really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Brexit would be the thing, but for understandable reasons, they haven't really decided to do that. But yeah, I think we've been missing like some great new spy content,
Yeah, because
and
I
so
feel
this has
like it
come
always kind
along.
of leads back to the
Yeah,
Cold War in one sense. Even like the season before, so season two of Slow Horses was kind of
that
centered
was really good.
around kind of Soviet spooks from back in the day. But I mean, still good. I guess it's good that we haven't got any new material because we're not in any international wars. I guess, which is a good thing. But at the same time, it's we all need that content, don't we,
Mm.
to make some new stuff. But yeah, I guess we could kind of get into the episode now.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one this episode because the opening sequence you've got, which is in I think it's Istanbul,
Istanbul, yeah.
which is a big kind of
Sorry
like
to cut you
10.
off there, but that's another thing I like about Spy
Yeah,
thing.
no, that's right.
It's like a travel show, but not because you're kind of going to all these different places, and it's like, where are we trying to figure it out and everything. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, because the book I think is very like London centric, all of them, and the show
Okay,
so far has been quite, Aldersgate or wherever they are,
yeah,
near Barbican, aren't they? Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, you have this big 10, 15 minute opening sequence in Istanbul that
hmm,
introduces these two new characters you've not seen before,
mm,
and I was surprised because I'd forgotten Catherine Waterston from Fantastic Beasts was in it, and so
yeah,
she pops up, and then I was like, okay, is she going to be a big part of the series? And then,
hmm.
bam, she's is she gone? And I'm going to butcher his name, so apologise if I Sean Donovan, and I
Shockbed Dirisu.
there we go. Yeah, and
Yeah,
he's a fantastic actor, so
great
he's
actor.
really good as the main like antagonist for the series.
Mm,
But yeah, so we have this whole kind of cold opening, which is almost like from a different show,
yeah,
and so I was like, oh, if we ever kind of go down spin-off routes or whatever, or want to expand this world, there's all kinds of avenues they could go down.
yeah,
And they could
yeah.
do spin-offs, man, because there's books within books in this series, like other
Okay,
characters. So and I think he said they have talked about that as well. So this franchise could just run and run.
I'm not complaining, man. Give me
Um,
more. Give us more,
but yeah, the
please.
opening sequence is really good, and it's completely different to anything we've kind of seen before.
I think
And
what's good
it,
about that as well
yeah,
is it doesn't really, it just kind of throws you in, lets you
yeah,
figure it out yourself rather than telling you this and that, this and that, this and that. So just kind of like, oh, okay, we're not in the UK anymore, we're in Istanbul, they're speaking another language. Okay. She's going to sell secrets or, and yeah, it's just a really, really well done sequence, in my opinion.
I think the show doesn't like insult its audience's intelligence either. It's like, we're going to throw some complex stuff at you, but you got to work it out yourselves.
Yeah.
Because all that, like, obviously, like each spy thing has its own like hierarchy. So obviously, the way MI5 operates here, with Slough House and the dogs
Hmm.
and everything,
Yeah.
is completely different to like the circus or MI6 in James Bond,
So
whatever.
they call this the park, which is
Yeah,
MI5, and the circus would be MI6. Yeah. Just love that.
but like the
The sort of
hierarchy,
names.
with Dame Diana and Ingrid and stuff is very
Ingrid, yeah.
interesting as well.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of like figuring out what exactly is going on. Then, I mean, eventually you find out that Catherine Watson character, Alison Dunn, who's actual MI5 agent, is, I mean, dead. I mean,
Well,
she kind of, oh, is she dead?
it looks that way. Yeah,
It looks like she's dead. Yes, and you kind of like, oh, okay, these are all new characters. We haven't met any of these before, and what is going on? Then you kind of get into, after the amazing uh, soundtrack by Sir Mick Jagger.
and
Is
I
this
still
Sir?
can't believe they got him to do a
I
song
can't
for
believe
an
it as
Apple
well.
TV show.
Honestly, man. I mean, it's not like Apple are like struggling with like capital, but at the same time, I mean, Mick Jagger has all the money in the world, so it
Yeah, I
must have
think
been.
it's just it shows that he respects the material. I think he said he got sent the script, and I think he'd either read the books before or he read them after, and he was like, "This is my vibe."
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like as soon as you get someone as like iconic as that doing your main theme, you're in for a good time.
absolutely. Just kind of like, yeah, strapping. Well, that's gone a good ride. And I mean, we kind of hop back into Jackson, played by the amazing Gary Oldman, who is having some medical problems, isn't he?
Oh, I know that was quite funny.
That was such a funny scene because it's like, what's the limit? Like, how much have you been drinking? It's like, just put the limit on there. It's 14's the limit, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, this guy isn't really taking care of himself, is he? And it's how do you still smoke? And it's like, no, I haven't had a cigarette in 15 minutes. And it's like, just great, great writing, isn't it?
What I like about the show and the books is that there's always like an unspecified amount of time between each season or each book, and they don't
Yeah,
really bother telling you what's happened between, rather than they're all still incredibly unhappy at the start of each season, so you kind of
absolutely.
know nothing exciting has happened in between.
Yeah,
They're always still wanting to leave Slough House, even though they're always involved in some scandal or someone's dying or something's happening.
absolutely.
Um,
And it's sort of like, I mean, I guess we kind of guesstimate on like how far after the
yeah, the thing that for me is that Louisa is still obviously very upset by Min's death. You see her
Min's
out
death.
drinking and
Yeah,
one night
and
stands and stuff.
they're still looking for they're still looking for a diamond, aren't they? From the
Yes,
Russians.
so that
Yes,
would be from
from
the end of season two. Yeah,
Pashkin. Yeah, season two. So yeah, it's everything kind of all follows each each episode kind of all follow each other, which makes it kind of concurrent as well. And quite just makes a lot of sense in that way, which is another reason why I kind of like this, where it just sort of flows through and yeah, just a nice easy watch. But yeah, Jackson kind of realizes that he's being tailed, and I just do like how he's able to just do like some really cool spy stuff. Not really cool, but using mirrors and kind of like not walking too quick, walking too slow to definitely confirm that someone is following him, and just doing all the kind of subtle spy stuff here and there. Gary Oldman is just bloody amazing, isn't he?
yeah. I think the good thing is also it's not just about him. Like if you took him out of the equation, because
Yeah,
apparently he was going to be not like a non-featuring character, like he was going to be a almost like an NPC, and then just be in the background. And then Mick Herron was like, "Oh, I've written a scene with him now. This guy's too interesting. Let's keep him in there." But it's kind of
absolutely.
reframes the whole franchise because obviously he's like the selling point.
Yeah,
So if you took him out, I don't know how it would work. Um,
honestly, and it's kind of like he's like an obviously like a great spy, but at the same time, he's just so flippant about everything, isn't he? Just about everyone, about everything. And it's just, yeah,
he comes out with some great one-liners.
yeah. It's It's just absolutely cooking in this in this episode. But I guess like the main, like the backbone, the spine of this episode is um,
Standish, isn't it?
Standish
Yeah.
is kidnapped by the character that we meet in the first scene, which we learn to be will be Sean Donovan, and a group of, let's call them friends, acquaintances, associates, I'd say. And it's kind of like, Standish, why is Standish being kidnapped? What the hell is going on? And it's so, I mean, because he meets her at the AA meeting, then they go for a coffee later. It's all like a quick chat and kind of like what's going on here. Then it kind of all flips, doesn't it? Where he's like, "You're not going anywhere," and it just smirk comes out of his face. Then she tries to escape, and he thinks she's gotten away with it. Then they just end up by praying her, and it's like, oh, okay, what the hell?
It's a really well done. Well, I don't know how long that whole sequence from the A meeting to her get 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah, something like
focusing on
that.
those two
Mhm.
characters, because it's like help, and he's like no, yeah, and then it's the person she's asking for help is obviously involved in it. And they change it from the book slightly, because in the book
Okay,
I think they used to be like a romantic thing, the two of them,
yeah.
and she knew him before.
Oh
So I'm
right,
interested in what made them change it to that they didn't know each other. I think they just met at the AA and that he's after
oh right.
man.
So in the books they had like an affair or something.
Yeah, yeah. So in the
Oh
books,
wow.
he'd been in prison, and they're like ex-lovers,
Oh
or like
wow.
either a fling, or they knew each other at least, and that there's something that's gone on between them.
Yeah,
So I'm interested in why they changed that, but it still really works really well in the show. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the other thing is whenever they have changed stuff, like the big change for me is that Spider is still alive at the end of season two, because when he gets shot in season two, he dies in the book at that point,
Right. Okay.
and so they've kept him alive a little bit here.
So
Not to
Spider
spoil
played
anything.
by the Freddie Fox, part of
Freddie
the
Fox, yeah.
esteemed. Is that who you call them? The esteemed Fox
Well,
family.
his cousin or whatever relation he is,
Uncle?
is not esteemed, is he?
No, it's not. He's actually a bit of a terrible
um,
person. I do like his I think it might be his granddad who was in the other Jackal, which is one of my
yeah,
favorite. I guess is
might
that
be
another spy film? I guess that's
might be
another.
his dad. Is that his dad?
Is that his dad? That might be his dad.
I'm gonna check this because I want
Yeah,
to get
which was in
Amelia
the
Fox. You've obviously got from Silent Witness as well,
yeah.
and then there's James and Edward who are like the dad and granddad. Uh,
We're not gonna mention the L word, are we?
no, well we've hinted at him, haven't we?
Yeah, we have already. That's
Uh,
more than enough. But yeah, the other Jackal is like one of like another. I didn't remember, like we're talking about the killer, and that just reminded me of
Edward Fox, who's the
Edward
one
Fox.
in the Day of the Jackal, is
Yes,
Freddy's dad. There you go.
really.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a
But yeah, his
proper.
dad's in loads. Both his dad and his uncle are in so many classic movies
Yeah, yeah,
and shows.
yeah. The other
And
Jackal
then
reminded
there's
me of the killer, or the killer reminded me of
yeah,
the other Jackal. Kind of
I think
got
that's
that
a good comparison. Yeah,
parallel comparison. But I just like him in this show. Like he's such a twat,
he really is. Yeah,
but at the same time, it's sort of like yeah, you just like you just know like you're just completely unbearable, man. But at the same time, it's unbearable in a bit of a pathetic way. But at the same time, I just laugh whenever it comes on my screen because it's like
you kind of want to see more of him because he's so like slimy, and
honestly,
he's completely different to like Taverner, who's like a stone cold bitch,
yeah.
and then you get him and he's like a puppy almost.
Who just
He
kind
has
of
some good
bites off
development in
more than
this.
he can chew.
He has some good
Honestly,
development in this season as well, which obviously he doesn't get in the books. So that's again another interesting segue.
yeah. I mean, that's quite interesting actually in terms of Sean and uh Standish having a relationship. I
Yeah, I
guess.
think it works in both ways. Like
Mm,
the obviously them having a connection makes the kidnapping more personal. Like
mhm.
it makes it feel like she's got more of a purpose to be kidnapped, and he obviously knows she works for Slough House. Whereas this, it seems like they're like picking rabbits out of the hat over who Lamb
Yeah.
likes and who they're going to kidnap. So it's more like calculated, I guess.
I guess they had the. I mean, because they had like the kind of relationship dynamic in the first scene anyway, and I
Yeah,
think there might have been just too much. Just
yeah. I
like,
think sometimes, and I think when they have changed things, it's because there's so many characters and there's only so
mm,
much you can't do like a personal life for all of them. And they've
yeah,
obviously decided that River, and in the books as well, River and Louisa are kind of the main two that get development really.
yeah.
Because Min and not Min, sorry, Roddy and
Yeah.
the others,
Oh,
and well,
my
Shirley and
favorite
Marcus
character.
get a bit of development as well, but
Yeah,
Roddy doesn't get development until later in the books. Like he's just a bit of an idiot until you get more stuff with him.
Who, Roddy?
Hmm.
Oh, really? I mean, he's an idiot in a different way. So Roddy Ho, who is played by, just find his name here, Christopher Chung. He's
I
actually an
spoke to him last year. He's really cool guy.
Australian guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I didn't know that. So we were having this interview, and then suddenly this Aussie accent comes out, and I was like, "Oh,
You're like,
that's
what?
cool."
It's sort of
But
like
yeah,
that's how Americans react when someone like Chiwetel Ejiofor is like in the film. It's like, oh my god, is it Brit? Is it Brit?
I know Brits nail the American accents.
So easy. And yeah, I guess yeah, that's kind of like the episode is like literally just trying to figure out exactly why Standish has been
Hmm.
kidnapped, and obviously we meet the other characters as well. There's obviously River Cartwright, played by the Jack Lowden, who actually sort of the actor I've seen in a lot of places, but I think I properly watched him in Dunkirk. He was one of like the flight
He
kind of
was,
like
yeah.
jet
He's the
jet pilots.
second RAF pilot to Tom
Yeah,
Hardy,
yeah,
so that was his
exactly.
first kind of big movie role.
Yeah, yeah,
And he's done a really nice mix of movies and TV since.
yeah.
Like he's in The Gold, which is a BBC show
Hmm.
last year or this year, maybe even. And he was in something called Benediction, where he
Mm.
played Siegfried Sassoon, the poet. Uh,
Well, it's worth
and he
mentioning
was
that
in Small Axe as well. So he's done a really nice kind of
he's a
mix of.
small axe, isn't he? Yeah, I mean he's Scottish, and sometimes because I've watched him in a couple of interviews, that Scottish accent comes out. I'm just like, oh, I can hear it, I can hear it. Actually, forgot to mention that I think both of these episodes are directed by Saul Metstein, and it's called Strange Games and Hard Lessons. And I mean, he's got a couple of interesting. I think he's sort of based more of like in just the British TV scene. He's directed a couple of your Doctor Who episodes, Ripper Street, Living the Dream, and this show called Brassic, which I just kind of cropped off IMDb. And he's also been a second unit director, which I'm not really sure what that is. I guess you're directing a second unit, obviously, but I'm still a
Uh,
bit confused about
like
what exactly.
backup directors, I think
Yeah, maybe
maybe
if like,
because you have a certain number of directors and producers on each project. But I'm not. I don't have a
or if
fucking
your
clue. So
director is a bit like maybe busy, or he might
yeah, I think it's like a support role,
falls into
effectively.
like quicksand.
Yeah,
He can kind of come in, and also he was kind of location assistant for Train Spotting.
well, that's what the original one.
Yeah, the first one in I think it was
That's
'96. So
that's very
'cause
cool.
he's Scottish as well, so that kind of makes sense.
There's clearly a Scottish connection going on here.
Yeah, there's too many bloody Scots on the show. So yeah, I guess on to kind of like the other horses, as we call them here. You see, like Louisa is sort of obviously going through it after Min Harper's death in season two, and I mean, there's that scene where she's at the bar,
Yeah.
and like the future, like the kind of um, finance guy kind of walks up to her and starts. I mean, I was just sort of like, this guy, where's the chat, man? It's literally the worst conversation ever. Like, you just meet all those people who sort of, they can't wait to tell you about their job and what their job is, and it's just like properly mansplaining it to her as well about like what futures is.
Oh,
It's just like, shut up, shut up, shut up.
yeah, it was just cringy, wasn't it? But also like well written in a sense that it's kind of believable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, kind of, I mean, get back to flat. And after they're done with the fun things, he just goes to her fridge or freezer and just gets some ice cream. And it's like, whoever goes
What
to
you
somebody else's
doing?
house
What
and
you doing?
just grabs a tub of Ben and Jerry's.
Oh no.
Oh my god! And I mean, obviously, another reason why I like this show is it's what 40, 45 minutes, maybe 50 sometimes. Everything's so crisp, and no second is wasted, right? Because like, why on earth has he brought out the ice cream, top, cookies and cream Ben and Jerry's, which is actually not the worst Ben and Jerry, which is actually quite good Ben and Jerry's to be fair.
Yeah.
And it definitely kind of seemed to come to the fact that she's got the last diamond, hasn't she? It's hidden in the Ben and Jerry's. A lot of good hiding spots in this episode, because she's hiding the Ben and Jerry's at she's hiding the diamond at the Ben and Jerry's. Now the first scene, Alison Dunn, obviously the Catherine Watson character, is hiding um, the leaked files
Mm-hmm.
in was it beans that she was picking out?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, I guess if you want to hide something precious, I guess you could just watch the horses just hide in like a big, just any sort of food stuff.
But that's what, again,
Frozen.
why it's so different to something else. You just hide it in the first thing you can find, rather than like, oh, we've got to go through this elaborate scheme of finding somewhere good to hide something. It's like, here's the first thing we found, put it in there,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
it.
And it's quite believable as well. I think it was what's that spy film with that Geordie guy, I've forgotten his name. Uh with Tom Hanks. They had to like do some switching, but I think he had to hide something in like a coin or something, which was obviously quite believable as well. So a lot of ideas for hiding precious documents if you're ever thinking about becoming a spy, like your dear host over here. But yeah, she's kind of going for it, and you sort of realize, oh, the diamond is still here. And I'm guessing, was that like a good major plot point in the book as well?
What about the
The
in
lost
Diamond?
diamond from the
It's
Russians.
been a while since I've read it,
Hmm.
so I'll have to check.
So I've
Off the
got a
top of my
feeling
head, I
that would
can't remember a huge amount about there being a lost diamond.
right, because I've got a feeling that, I mean, that might become a bigger plot point within this season, and maybe even the season after. I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, by the point, all the later books, that's definitely not a thing. So I'm wondering if that's either something that was a thing and they've spun it out, or I'll
Mm.
give it another read, to be honest, because I've read the later ones, so all the specific plot points kind of get muddled up slightly.
Hmm. I mean, those are like
Um,
big, chunky books, to be fair.
but the diamond thing's obviously very clever because it's how River gets into the park. Obviously
Yeah. So
jumping ahead a bit, but it's obviously a key thing throughout the episode.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, can we kind of get into that? I guess. I guess the majority of the episode is the end of the first episode was them receiving a phone call on a picture from Sean Donovan and his associates about how you need to get these um, documents in at the park, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, kind of race against time sort of story. Let's go. The clock is ticking. It's like kind of like a 24 situation. 24, another spy
Yeah,
thing, I
in
guess.
that
Yeah,
same kind of area, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's like another post 9/11 sort of spy genre kind of thing. But yes, I guess kind of get into the second episode about how Um, obviously, they've contacted Cartwright directly. And you're kind of like, why Cartwright? Why not Lamb? Kind of like asking yourself these questions. Then, yeah, he's been asked to meet them at the Barbican Bridge, isn't there, in London?
Mhm.
So he gets there, and who does he see?
Judy
good,
Fox.
the good old Foxy, good old James Webb, aka Spider. And there's like this is child situation about how he's like the kind of convey about, you need to do this. They've got my kind of way in this together. It was kind of like I'm not sure if you've watched Black Mirror. Is it Shut Up and Dance episode?
I've not actually ever seen any
Have
Black
you
Mirror.
not? I was about to
I might
drop
have
an
seen
absolute.
a bit, but I've not seen any for a while. At least if I have seen
I
any.
was about to, not a spoiler, but kind of like plot points. But you're just meeting different people, giving you different, and giving you like a package, do
Hmm.
this or do that, and everyone is sort of all being held hostage, and it's saying, "I was sister and kids that are being held hostage, going to kill the kids in front of a sister," and he's giving him sort of like, you need to do this before 12. And yeah, I guess it kind of drives the plot about how he's been able to get into the park because he's gotten his sort of pass to get through, hasn't he?
Yeah, and then you find out that he's meeting. Oh God, is it Duffy,
Yeah,
the head,
Duffy, head of the
the head
dogs.
dog for this diamond,
Yeah.
um, basically. So it's quite a clever way of him getting in because obviously the part wants to know what happened about this diamond
Hmm.
from the end of season 2,
Yeah. So
and then
Nick
it's
Duffy,
quite
yeah,
also clever because the dogs aren't under Taverner's control or something like that. She
they're not
doesn't
under
have
her
oversight
control
of
anymore.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick Duffy played by Chris Riley, who yeah, he was in industry as well, which is another popcorn for dinner favorite. But I think in industry he was like a proper Scottish. Well, he had a Scottish accent in industry, and that was
Is
pretty
he
clever.
another Scottish actor?
No, he's not Scottish actually. I think he's actually. I think I was raised in England, so but he just put up on a Scottish accent over there. I might be wrong,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's really, really. I just like him in this one because it's just you can just see the contempt he has for each and every one of the slow horses, and it's
Yeah, he
quite yeah,
really
it's
hates
quite
a lot of them.
it's quite like funny as well. Just him. I mean, there's always that tension between him and Cartwright because they obviously have history from previous seasons, and yeah, I did like that scene about how obviously when Cartwright got into once he was able to get a pass into the actual park and he met Duffy, and there was like the conversation between him and Duffy about how, what are you doing here? Have you got the diamond? And I've got my eyes on you. I'm going to be watching you and everything, right? And he's like, actually, I'm going to escort you. And it's like, oh boy. And you kind of see um, Cartwright, looking at the times, sort of a bit of risk against time. What did you feel about? How did you feel about like that little that little interaction that they had?
It was just the whole sequence of River, because obviously he's on this kind of timer to get these files.
Hmm.
The whole sequence where he's having to go like off piece because he has to meet. He chats to Taverner for a bit. He chats to the security guard that he beat up in the hospital in season 1 as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's that
Fire
really
extinguisher,
they have a really awkward
yeah.
chat by the lift, and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing a talk here."
Like,
And he like escorts him down to the
yeah,
theater.
just when you think it's like, all right, he's actually in the clay, he's actually free to go, then it's like, well, actually, I'm
Someone
gonna,
else, yeah.
I'm gonna let you through. I didn't
Um,
get one part of that scene of that, let's call it sequence,
yeah,
was when he was being escorted for the diamond from Duffy before he meets the other agents, Dog's agent. When Taverner calls him into her office, and I know the point is to get him away from Duffy, which is fair, but she just got into his into her office and was a bit more like, you're like the worst thing to happen here, everything, just kind of like moaning to him, and I was a bit like, I don't really get this part.
I'm guessing it's more a reference to season 1,
I
like
was
the whole Stansted thing.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I guess it was season 2 as well when he called in
oh, the Code Red or whatever it
Code
was,
Red, yes, and like
about
then
the planes potentially
about the
hitting the
planes, and I guess,
charge.
yeah, I guess that makes sense because she was a bit more like, um, yeah. Actually, forgot to mention about Tavernier in the sense of when she went into that warehouse for the files in season 1, which I think would be a huge driving plot, or setting up kind of like the plot as well. So, what was, from your understanding, what was your reading from that scene?
In the first season.
No, so when Tavernier goes into that warehouse
Mhm.
to does it look at some files that have been transferred over?
Yeah, I think this is in this season, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think it's like the Grey books or something.
yeah, yeah.
Which this is jumping ahead beyond this episode a little bit, so I don't want to give away too much.
Mhm.
But I think essentially they're like files on conspiracy theories, and
Like
you
the moon
later
wasn't
find
real and
out
all. Well, we
that
didn't really go to the moon and all that,
that's what Sean Donovan is after.
right?
But that's more the plot for later episodes, so I
Right.
kind of don't want to obviously jump ahead from where we are now.
Yeah, I
But it's
see.
obviously setting that up, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we sort of yeah, I guess he sort of loses Duffy, then runs to the other agent who eventually, tells him that he's supposed to give a talk to other, new agents coming in about how not to fuck up your career like myself and all that kind of stuff. Then he kind of like obviously disarms the other agents, and
It's really funny, that whole
it's so
sequence,
funny. Yeah,
because obviously you can just tell those two hate each other.
it's
But then
well
there's loads of
acted as
comedy in there
well.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know, because I was kind of like, just get rid of, get away from him, and then it's like, all right, I'm off. I'll see you later, and he's still apprehending him about like how your life is terrible, your career is finished, and Kara is sort of like, yeah, sure, 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 thanks, get into the lift. He's like, all right, I'm gonna clear now, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, let me escort you there, and it's like, come on, man. Then show me your pass, then show me like your security allowance. I'm just like, oh man,
It's so good.
so funny, man, so funny, and yeah, he's kind of like going through. I mean, I guess this is kind of like it's meanwhile back at the ranch sort of scenes where it's sort of hopping between Lamb, who's actually figuring out what the hell is going on,
Yeah. So
who
who's
is
Donovan and
who's actually trying to you know infiltrate the MI5, who's trying to fuck with the slow horses and kind of that point as well. Then there's the I think it's Ho. Then there's what's the other guy called?
Marcus?
Marcus. Yes, Marcus,
Yeah.
and the Shirley as well. I think Shirley or Ho might be one of my favorite characters. Just two.
Yeah, I think in the show and the book, she's really good. And I was because in the book she's a massive druggie, which comes out in this series. But in season 2, I think they basically remove all mention of drugs for her. So I was
Yeah,
like, oh, is she like just a slightly different character? And then in this series, you see that she's taking crack and stuff.
yeah. I
So
mean, yeah. I mean, she's quite. Yeah, they haven't mentioned it yet, but it's quite. She looks always on edge, doesn't she? Just kind of always rushing. Like she's definitely
she's
on
always keen to
something.
beat
So
someone up.
yeah, I haven't really watched the. I think I watched up to like episode 3, so I haven't really watched the entire lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's just all of them trying to figure out exactly who is actually what the hell is going on. Then there's obviously there's the Louisa plotline as well, where she's with the car
Oh,
shows. Yeah,
that's
I
quite
mean
fun as
that
well.
scene where um they kind of towed her or the blue car away because it was parked on double yellow. I'm not saying that gave me PTSD because I have a lot of parking stories, but I was just a bit like, oh my god, that's parking ticket inspectors are like my worst
It
enemies. But
reminded me a bit of Promising Young Woman.
yeah,
When she randomly, smashes up
yeah,
the car. Obviously, completely different circumstances, but
mm,
like just angrily smashing a car.
honestly, and it's really funny because like she actually because obviously Ho thinks he's like the know-it-all, and she actually proves because these supposedly expertly spies who have supposed to be infiltrated MI5 have used their real names to hire a car, which which was used to kidnap Stanish at the end of season 1, episode 1. So because Ho was kind of like, obviously can't be their real names, they've changed their plates. We need to get to the dark web. We need to follow this long process to actually find out who they are. He was always like, no, just check the names on who registered for the car, and that's it. Yeah, that's it, and that was it. And that's how the slow horses then learn about who Sean Donovan is and how everything comes together. Then I guess before that there was like the big chase between with Marcus, who is just the funniest character. Not funniest, but like he's quite. I like I like the kind of vibes with him and Shirley. But he's like obviously he's a gambling addict, and everyone in this show just has their problems,
Hmm.
one or the other. But like him and Shirley are tailing this guy who they think is obviously tailing the slow horses as well outside their gaff. So it's I mean I've never heard of tailing someone from the front, someone walking in front
No,
of
and
your
then they like set off an alert, don't they, or something,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
to get him to follow them, which is clever.
absolutely.
I love how
Just the
Lamb's just there, like because they've spent all this time chasing the guy, and then Lamb's just there at the end of it.
It's like yeah, I got his number plate,
It's so
and
funny.
just shows how great it is. But I mean, it sort of leads kind of to the conclusion of the episode where actually before that, Lamb obviously does a bit more digging in terms of like who the hell is um trying to fuck with us and all. He has to go to his friend when he says, "Let me, I want to do some laundry," and he has to speak to his other spy friend who we've met in the previous seasons about how who could this be. So he mentions 3 names, which are just bloody great. I think these are all private contractors, aren't they?
Mhm.
So he said Stormbreak is so it was three firms. So there's Stormbreak, Strike Force, which is just a brilliant name for a
Well, they're
private
nods
country.
to other shows as well, aren't they? Because you got Stormbreaker as like Alex Rider, and then
Yeah,
Strike Force, I think, was a show as well. Um, so I think it's like little nice nods to other spy
yeah.
films.
Oh, Alex Rider. Isn't there a movie coming up for that soon, or has that come out already?
We've had the show.
Yeah, but that
Um,
didn't really last long, though, did it?
I don't know if it's still on, but they've had at least 2 seasons of it, haven't they?
Yeah, gosh, I really loved the books when I was younger.
Yeah, I think they're still going,
They're still going.
which is pretty much, yeah. He had like a 10-year gap, and he's brought them back. Um, but I am a bit behind on the show.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, and what's the last one? Chief? Is it Chieftain? I couldn't really get the name properly.
Yes, right, that sounds right.
Yeah. So, and it was, I just really like that interaction about how, like, oh, Stormbreaker is tired of, they're busy with Syria at the moment. Then Strike Force, they're about to take down the Liberian warlord, and you're like, everyone is
We'll see,
busy,
like, because
man.
I organised it or something
Because I
as well.
organized it, because I'm doing logistics. That was just
Yeah,
brilliant, brilliant stuff. I literally watched that like 3 times, just laughing my ass off. It's like, all right, by a process of elimination, it has to be Chieftain, who is headed up by is it Sly Monteith?
yes,
And once I heard that, I was kind of like, you are like, you're definitely, Eton, definitely went to public school, definitely Oxbridge, and it's like, yeah, he's a big old Etonian, absolute pont, and I was like, oh, definitely, it's just like this show is definitely just reflecting exactly what I'm thinking. Just a really good interaction between both of them, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And I think Lamb is able to figure it out on how, what exactly is going on, but it's not until, and obviously relays it to River to get out, because I mean, there's nothing that deep that's going on. Then definitely um, kind of come to figure out that it's a Tiger Team at the end of the episode. So would you mind? Because I didn't know what a Tiger Team was in that sense. I didn't even know like what term Tiger Team meant. So I
uh,
mean,
I think later they tell you it's like a team put together to like test the security of MI5 or something like that.
yeah.
Um,
So I've just googled Tiger Team now, and it says a Tiger Team is a group of experts brought together to solve a specific problem.
hmm.
So that's by the Google translations. Yeah, so I'm guessing they were testing the security systems for the
Yeah,
park.
I don't want to spoil it because obviously then we're touching on stuff that comes out in episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah,
But yeah, you kind of find out that it's not quite as simple as a kidnapping or as you think it is, and they're
yeah,
like there's lots of different parties involved, and so there's lots more twists in episode 3.
yeah,
So episode 3 is when things get really juicy.
yeah. But like, I mean, it's still really well done though, and it's all well done leading to a test basically. And it's kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, the director is just sort of flexing his muscles. Like, I can literally do all this, and it's not actually leading, well, not leading to anything yet. It's all a test at the end of the day.
No, it's the fact that something is so action packed for it not to still be quite resolved at the end. Like
Yeah,
you like
yeah.
obviously you got some resolution in a sense, like we know who the people are, what they're doing,
Hmm.
but like the ultimate aims and like where it's going is still a massive mystery. So it's just really cleverly done.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously, should have mentioned at the start that early episodes always have that um, problem of trying to follow up with the previous episodes of the previous seasons, but at the same time introducing new plot points and new guests, but at the same time not doing too much, but also at the same time not, still trying to give us a bit to keep us engaged. And I always feel like it's always kind of like an interesting sort of line to walk through in terms of starting a new season, and you know how do you um, put your viewers into this new system, into this new environment that you've been developing to make it make sense from the previous episodes and seasons.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that this did really well. I think it was really really well done, really really exciting, and yeah, really really funny.
Yeah, it kind of has everything that fans will love about the show. And I think the great thing is that there's no sign of quality dropping because obviously, like they've renewed it for 4 seasons at least,
Yeah.
and you kind of then think, is it going to stay consistently good? But obviously, the source material. I think the books at this point start getting better. Like,
Hmm.
not that they're bad to start off with, but like
Hmm.
4, 5, and 6 is a really strong run of books.
Yeah.
And there's no bad ones, and there's some real wild twists coming up in the next two books if they get to those. Um, so you know that as long as they're like good adaptations, that the series, the quality is going to stay good.
Yeah. I mean, according to Vulture, Apple was so confident in what they had in this spy thriller that it ordered 4 seasons from the jump, which is just unheard of.
I think it helps when they can make them in one batch, like they filmed this one and four at the same time, and then
Yeah.
because of maybe because of COVID, but they filmed season 1 and 2 at the same time as well, and
Yeah.
so
And
that
it's
means they
funny.
can have gaps in filming because like if they're
Yeah.
doing one lot of 4 months, then they can have a gap till they need to do the next lot. And I think Gary Oldman's semi-retiring from everything else to focus on this.
Oh, really?
He's obviously he was in Oppenheimer in the summer, but he said he's not going to do
Oh,
a
yeah, it
huge amount of
was.
he one scene though. He's not going to do a huge amount of like film or TV work outside of this. I think he really likes playing Lamb.
I'm not surprised, man. It's quite a fun role to play, isn't it? Yeah, because like I feel like at the end of every season, so obviously at the end of season one, we had like a preview to season two. By the end of season two, we had a preview to season three as well.
And I'd
And
imagine there'll be a. I haven't seen all the episodes yet, but I
yeah,
think that my friend has, and he says there's a preview for season 4 at the
for
end of.
season four. So it
I
just keeps on rolling.
imagine if this season is as well reviewed, then they'll definitely renew it for more because it's one
Another
of
four
Apple TV's
seasons.
most watched shows, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, maybe Ted Lasso might be a bit
Oh yeah,
more
but this is definitely up
watch.
there in
Quite
terms of like
definitely well up there.
popularity.
And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just keep on giving me more, giving us more slow horses, please. I mean, it's not like nothing to
Yeah, I
complain
mean,
about here.
as long as we don't get to a Game of Thrones position where they overtake the books.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel
He
like,
seems to write them fairly quickly,
oh
and like
really?
it will be at least another 2 or 3 years till they catch up anyway. So
I feel like there's once you start overtaking the books, it kind of. I don't think there's ever been an occasion where, I mean, let's say the books were incomplete and the movies or the adaptations kind of went past the books, and it was still good.
yeah, I
Like the
think
two I can think of are obviously there's Game of Thrones, which is, I mean, let's no, God no,
at
and
least House of Dragon was good.
yeah, I mean the Robert Ludlum,
Oh, Jason Bourne, yeah.
yeah, Jason Bourne ones because that was unfinished, wasn't it?
He wrote the first three, and I think there's now like I don't know if they still do them, but there were like 10 or 11 when I last checked continuation novels, like the Bourne
Ah,
Deception, the Bourne
was it
Betrayal,
him
and
that
stuff.
wrote it or someone
No,
else?
it's the same guy, and then all the most obvious one is the girl with the dragon tattoo ones,
Yes, that's
because
what I was thinking about. Yes,
that series was unfinished.
was unfinished.
Um,
Yes, because that, I mean, the first two movies because I've watched the Swedish ones as well, and the first two are just great.
yeah.
Um,
Oh God, there are after the first three Bourne films. There's like a good 10 or 11 more books, and then someone else has carried it on. Jesus,
really.
so there's like 15 books after the main guy died, which is pretty ridiculous.
Oh
I'm
wow.
guessing the movies maybe are closer to those ones. I don't know. But yeah, the girl with the dragon tattoo ones, controversial because I think his wife was initially unhappy with the continuations, so I think she was going to write her own ones or something as well. So there's a lot of like issues around those. But yes, so the key thing is that whenever a show overtakes a book, it's
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah, I guess that was our point. But I mean, we do have quite a lot of books to catch up to.
Yeah, we've got 8 main books, and then I think 3 related books and some short stories. So there's a lot of material for them to pull from.
A lot of material. I'm sure they're quite interesting. But yeah, I guess we could end our conversation there. Slow horses. Really good 2 episodes. I might we might watch it now that we've
Yeah,
just
I'm
done
going to
an
watch them
episode,
again.
and it's just really,
Especially,
really.
it's out next Wednesday. I think I made a mistake tweeting about it earlier, where I was correctly corrected. So not this week. The embargo was today,
Yeah.
but the episodes drop next Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So
And
yeah,
then
guys, please
yeah,
watch Slow Horses. Let us know how you feel. Yeah, just one of like especially if you're like into dark humor, dark comedy, or spies, thrillers, that kind of genre of filmmaking and TV shows, because it's just great stuff and great performances as well. And obviously, don't forget to like subscribe to the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. We do have a lot of content coming your way, a lot of TV shows coming your way as well. and I don't even know what's on the list, but the content just keeps on rolling, and there's like a lot of like good movies as well coming out. There's obviously we do have The Killer, which we've released
Mhm.
a reaction to that, The Killers of the Flower Moon as well. I think I think Bankley saw Saltburn yesterday,
It's a
so
goodie.
yeah, because I want to
Well,
see that as well.
I
Uh,
didn't love it, but a lot of people really like it. So
I think that might be a bit of me, to be fair. Yeah,
there'll be a
so
lot to talk about on that one. And then Napoleon as well.
Napoleon is out. And Wonka is coming out soon as well. So just
Busy
to,
time.
yeah, just a lot of films coming out. So yeah, thanks a lot, Chris, for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Great to talk about slow horses.
yeah, plug your kind of like your websites and everything now.
Yeah. So on what was Twitter, now X apparently, I'm at Chris Connor 96,
Hmm.
which is where I kind of just dump all my content for whoever I'm writing for. And there's a link to my portfolio in there if you're interested in things I've written. And then I think the rest of the socials, it's basically the same handle for all of them. So whatever alternatives to Twitter are now out there.
OnlyFans? No,
not
no, no,
not quite there, no.
no, quite there. Okay.
But Blue Sky, I look kind of loose. There's so many now.
So Fred's as
Um,
well, isn't there?
Reds, yeah, I've got the same similar handle on all of those, so easy to find.
All the platforms. But yeah, thanks again, Chris. And yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see you next week when we're talking about episodes 3 and 4. So yeah, guess we'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.